Hello folks. So today I'm going to film the last Rahu Ketu series. We speak today about the 5-11 axis. Yeah, so let's get into this. So, Ketu in the 5th house and Rahu in the 11th house. With Ketu in the 5th, again we have Ketu triggering that Dharma Trikona axis, right? 159. So Ketu here will be concerned with your personal evolution, redefining your character in some way. And as I mentioned before, Ketu in the first half of the chart, from the houses from 1 till, I take 7, but you could also say 6, 1 till 6 at least. It can mean the first half of life is less enjoyable than the second half of life. 5th house is no doubt one of the most auspicious houses, but this Ketu placement can be difficult for children. There can be a detachment from children. There can be a separation from children in your early life. There can be a loss of connection with children. It can also create a disinterest or difficulty in having children. But as usual, we need to check to see Jupiter's placement and also the Sun's placement, because that's the natural 5th house belongs to the Sun, right? So Jupiter's aspect here can certainly give children, but perhaps later in life. Here Ketu can give a disinterest in formal education, and it also would bring breaks in your educational journey. In fact, you may abandon it altogether. A well-placed Ketu in the 5th can give you a very strong intellect, though, and a penetrating insight. Learning languages can come easily to you. Ketu in the 5th can give peculiar tastes, and your mindset can be a little bit peculiar also. Hard to understand. With this Ketu in the 5th, what I've noticed, at some point in your life, there was a deep disappointment with your love life. In fact, love relationships can be quite intense with Ketu in the 5th, and so can the separations that result from love relationships not working out. Yeah. In fact, Ketu in the 5th, you can end up playing that martyr role, where you sacrifice everything for true love, for the other person. In fact, at one point in your life, you would have had a painful breakup, perhaps in your early life. And this may lead you to harbor a negative feeling toward love in general. So here you can place more value on platonic relationships, friendships, which is excellent, right? Because this is moving you towards that Rahu place. The thing to watch for with this Ketu placement is that you can live in a fantasy world. There's a sense of getting swept away by romance, by adventure, by fantasy. And there perhaps exists a very strong impression of lives gone by, where relationships were based on romance and being physically possessive with your partner. You can also suffer due to spending too much time dreaming about things that you can't have, or for some reason they're outside of your reach. And this especially applies to people, romantic relationships. You like the compliments and attention you get from others, but in the end you feel weak for this. It ends up making you feel weaker. If you don't get the object of your desire, you can end up feeling helpless, and at times you can behave spoiled and childish also as a result. This is especially the case if Ketu is afflicted and doesn't receive the aspect of Jupiter. You can take things to heart and too personally, but there will be some experience in life that will force you to grow up. Right? So, of course, when this will happen, we have to see the dasha sequence. This is a classic placement for someone who fantasizes about their wedding day after the first date only. Right? With this Ketu placement, you will suffer from excessive passion at some point in your life, and you will be forced to move toward indifference, toward detachment. Once you move away from romantic relationships, social connections and friends become more important, and this will help you reestablish your own identity, which you may have lost in the pursuit of relationships. This way is a good thing, because this way you don't become your own worst enemy by always dreaming about people or things that you cannot have. You can also resort to feeling sorry for yourself or create a victim image in your mind with this Ketu placement. If your heart does break over failed relationships, this Ketu placement can also give you a hardness, like you can become hard and bitter as a result. So, it's very important to have something in your life that makes you feel good. That is not that one other person. Right? So getting involved with some community work, community groups, spiritual groups, maybe seva, is highly beneficial for you. With the 5th house Ketu, you can have the innate ability to gain from spiritual practices, especially mantra practice. It can come very naturally to you. You can also have a lot of knowledge about scriptures, and this will help you to move away from that ego identification that comes with Ketu in the 5th house. Right? After all, the 5th is natural house of 5th is what? Is ruled by the sun. It's Leo, right? So that brings me to Rahu in the 11th. Rahu in the 11th is one of the most desirable placements of Rahu, and I've seen it work very, very well. I would say it's the best placement for Rahu. Especially if Rahu is alone in that 11th house. So, fulfillment of desire is the essence of Rahu here, and also the manifestation of wishes, of goals. That's what the 11th house is. Though, this may not happen till later in life, mid to late 40s onward. This Rahu placement gives longevity and a long life too. Yeah. Rahu in the 12th will certainly make you very ambitious. It can also give you high idealism. But if it's channeled properly, this placement can help you realize these ideals. 11th house significations get boosted here. What are those? Friends, obviously, communities, philanthropy, relationships, group relationships, elder siblings, humanitarianism, and of course the realization of objectives, gains of all kinds, fulfilling your wishes, achieving your goals. In fact, this placement can give you a lot of beneficial connections and friends. If you have elder siblings, there can be gain from your siblings. Rahu here can also give you high status and privileges through others. Right? But often these connections are motivated by personal gain. They don't tend to be sincere. If you are too selfish here, though, then those in the position to help you may part ways. And if you acquire your fortune or your wealth by devious means, you can quickly lose it too. Right? Like maybe too many expenses can come up out of nowhere, for instance. Here you want to be part of the inner circle, accepted in the elite crowds, associate with those that have high status, that have money. All kinds of privileges, basically, you want to be able to access. If you were to be involved in community groups, then you would be considered a leader. At least you would be popular amidst that circle. Gains in income can come through foreign dealings and connections also. If your work relies on networking, then this is a very beneficial position. Especially if this Rahu is aspected by Jupiter. As usual. If, for instance, you have a YouTube channel, and then this Rahu placement can give you a rise in popularity very quickly. With a dignified Rahu, this can make you a risk taker. With a dignified Rahu placement, so yes, it's in the 11th, but see what sign it's sitting in. It will make you a risk taker. Because why? It's 6th from the 6th. And you can certainly earn enough through your own self-efforts, because this is the highest of the Upachaya houses. Though I've seen that with this placement, there's normally help. Normally there's help from others, right? Connections, usually. Friends in powerful places, that sort of thing. You could have also inherited a lot from your family. Like you could come from a wealthy family. Inheritance can come in all forms. It can come through, like you can inherit friends also from your family. Connections, status, money. From your ancestral lineage also. Unless there's a Mars or Saturn affliction, this placement usually ensures a wealthy lifestyle. Check the D9 also. With an affliction, you can still be well off, but there can be a lot of backstabbing and betrayal through friends. As usual with all of the nodal placements, there is an imbalance that needs to be restored. You need to understand and work out the opposites, like acquisition of resources, sharing of resources, right? There is that struggle also between the self-consciousness versus group consciousness with this placement. If you acquire things in a devious way, as I mentioned, they can be taken away very quickly, either through undesirable expenses, or someone can betray you. It can be anything. It can be money, it can be connections, it can be material comforts. This is quite typical of Rahu, actually. It will give easily, but it will take away also if you've used manipulative, deceptive means to gain advantage. So be watchful there. So that's all for now. If you enjoy that, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, comment. All the best.